Sophia Martinez had exactly 17 minutes left on her double shift when the most expensive car she'd ever seen pulled up outside Tony's diner. Through the rain-streaked windows, she watched a man in a tailored suit step out of the sleek black Bentley, not even bothering to avoid the puddles that would have ruined her entire paycheck worth of clothes. She'd been working at Tony's for 3 years, serving coffee and pie to truck drivers, construction workers, and the occasional lost tourist. She knew every type of customer, the regulars who wanted their eggs over easy and their coffee black, the late-night crowd looking for somewhere warm to nurse a cup of coffee until dawn, the families stretching their dollars to share a plate of fries. This man was none of those things. He walked through the door like he owned the place, his cold blue eyes scanning the worn vinyl booths and faded linoleum floors with obvious distaste. His dark hair was perfectly styled despite the storm outside, and his charcoal suit probably cost more than Sophia made in 6 months. "We're closing in 15 minutes, Sophia called from behind the counter, not bothering to look up from counting her tips. $43 and change. Enough for groceries if she was careful, with maybe a little left over for Diego's textbooks. "Actually, I need you to close now." Sophia's head snapped up. The man was standing at the counter, his expression expectant, like he'd just asked for a coffee refill instead of demanding she shut down the diner. "Excuse me? I have an important meeting here in 20 minutes. I need the place cleared out and private." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a money clip thick with hundreds. This should cover any lost revenue. Sophia stared at him, heat rising in her chest. She glanced around the diner at her remaining customers, old Mr. Peterson nursing his 3rd cup of coffee while he waited for the rain to stop, Maria and her 2 kids sharing a piece of apple pie they'd made last an hour, Tommy, the night security guard, grabbing dinner before his shift. "No," she said simply. The man blinked, clearly unused to hearing that word. "I'm sorry?" "I said no. We don't close early for anyone, no matter how much money you wave around." Sophia crossed her arms, standing her full 5'4". "These people are customers too, and they have just as much right to be here as you do. Do you have any idea who I am? Someone who thinks money makes him more important than everyone else." Sophia's voice carried across the diner, and she noticed Mr. Peterson hiding a smile behind his coffee cup. "Your money doesn't buy you the right to ruin other people's nights." The man's jaw tightened, his blue eyes flashing with something between anger and incredulous surprise. He wasn't handsome in a conventional way. His features were too sharp, too intense. But there was something magnetic about him that made Sophia's pulse quicken despite her irritation. "This is a mistake," he said quietly, his voice carrying a warning. "The only mistake would be letting you push around my customers." Sophia turned back to her tip counting. "You want privacy? There's a fancy restaurant down the street that takes reservations." When she looked up again, he was gone.
Welcome to another episode of Ever After. Kindly comment where you are listening from and subscribe so you don't miss out on our next episode.
Chapter 1. Sophia refuses to close the diner for Damien. 20 minutes later, Sophia was wiping down tables when the Bentley returned. This time, 2 more expensive cars followed it, and she watched through the window as several men in suits gathered on the sidewalk, clearly agitated about something. The first man, Mr. Entitled as she'd dubbed him in her head, gestured toward the diner while talking rapidly on his phone. Even from inside, Sophia could see the frustration in his body language. "Looks like your boyfriend's back," called Tommy from his corner booth, grinning over his meatloaf special. "He's not my boyfriend," Sophia replied, but she couldn't help watching as the man ended his call and strode back toward the diner entrance. This time he wasn't alone. 2 other men followed him in, both looking uncomfortable in their expensive suits. The leader, because it was clear he was in charge, approached the counter with a different strategy. "I apologize for earlier," he said, his voice more controlled now. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Damien Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Enterprises. This is genuinely an emergency business situation." Sophia recognized the name from news articles about tech acquisitions and corporate mergers. Damien Blackwood was supposedly worth billions, known for his ruthless business tactics and reclusive personal life. And he was even more intimidating up close. "Mr. Blackwood," she said carefully, "I appreciate the introduction, but my answer hasn't changed. We're open until 11 p.m., and our customers are welcome until then." "This meeting could affect thousands of jobs," one of his companions said urgently. "Surely you can make an exception." "No exceptions." Sophia's voice was firm. "Mr. Peterson there? He's been coming here every Tuesday for 5 years since his wife died. Maria's celebrating her daughter's birthday with the only dessert they can afford this month. Tommy works 3 jobs to support his disabled mother. Their needs matter just as much as your business emergency." Damien studied her face, and Sophia felt exposed under his intense gaze. "You're very passionate about protecting your customers. I'm passionate about treating people with respect, regardless of their bank account." "And what about your own bank account?" Damien asked quietly. "I'm guessing you need this job." Sophia's cheeks burned. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're risking your livelihood to make a point. That's either very brave or very foolish." "Maybe both," Sophia admitted, lifting her chin. "But it's my choice to make." For a long moment, they stared at each other across the counter. Finally, Damien nodded to his companions. "We'll find somewhere else." But as they turned to leave, he looked back at Sophia one more time. "What's your name?" "Why?" "Because I have a feeling this isn't the last time we'll see each other." "Sophia," she said against her better judgment. "Sophia," he repeated, like he was testing how it sounded. "I'm Damien. I know who you are." His smile was sharp and dangerous. "No, I don't think you do." After they left, Mr. Peterson chuckled into his coffee. "That boy's going to be trouble for you, mija." Sophia had a sinking feeling he was right. Chapter 2. Damien becomes intrigued and starts visiting regularly. The next morning, Sophia arrived at Tony's for the breakfast shift to find the biggest bouquet of flowers she'd ever seen sitting on the counter. Red roses mixed with white lilies, arranged in a crystal vase that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Secret admirer?" asked Tony, grinning as he flipped pancakes on the griddle. At 65, Tony Benedetto had been running the diner since before Sophia was born, and he treated his employees like family. "More like a persistent pest," Sophia muttered, reading the card. "For someone who can't be bought." "Those are some expensive flowers for a pest," Tony observed. "You want to tell me what happened yesterday after I left?" Sophia filled him in on the encounter with Damien Blackwood while she set up the coffee station and restocked the pie case. Tony listened with growing amusement. "So let me get this straight. You told Damien Blackwood, one of the richest men in the city, to take his money and shove it?" "I told him he couldn't buy out the diner for a private meeting." "Same thing, sweetheart. That man's used to getting whatever he wants." "Well, he can't have this." Sophia gestured around the diner with fierce protectiveness. "This place matters to people." The morning rush kept her busy serving coffee and eggs to construction workers and office employees grabbing breakfast on their way to work. She'd almost forgotten about the flowers when the bell above the door chimed and Damien Blackwood walked in. He was dressed more casually today, dark jeans and a navy sweater that probably still cost more than Sophia's car, but he looked just as out of place among the working-class breakfast crowd. "Coffee?" Sophia asked when he slid onto a stool at the counter. "Please. Black." She poured him a cup, noting the way his long fingers wrapped around the plain white ceramic mug. Everything about him screamed money and power, from his expensive watch to his perfect posture. "Thank you for the flowers," she said, because her mother had raised her to be polite. "But you didn't need to." "I wanted to apologize for last night. You were right to stand up for your customers." Sophia blinked in surprise. "You're apologizing?" "I'm acknowledging that I handled the situation poorly." Damien sipped his coffee, watching her over the rim. "This is good coffee." Tony gets the beans from a local roaster, has for 20 years. How long have you worked here? 3 years. Sophia found herself answering despite her wariness. Since I started nursing school. You're in school? Part-time. It's taking forever, but I'll get there eventually. Damien studied her with those intense blue eyes. What made you want to be a nurse? My brother Diego was in a car accident when he was 16. The nurses who took care of him, they didn't just treat his injuries, they gave our whole family hope when we needed it most. And now Diego's in medical school. Sophia's eyes widened. How did you? I asked around. You investigated me? Damien's smile was unapologetic. I was curious about the waitress brave enough to turn down a billionaire. Chapter 3. Damien learns about Sophia's life and dreams. For the next 2 weeks, Damien Blackwood became a regular at Tony's diner. He came in every morning at exactly 8:15 a.m., ordered black coffee and whatever daily special Tony recommended, and sat at the same counter stool. He never tried to monopolize Sophia's time during the busy breakfast rush, but she found herself stealing glances at him between orders. He was always impeccably dressed, even in casual clothes. He conducted business calls in multiple languages, his voice crisp and authoritative as he discussed mergers and acquisitions that involved more money than Sophia could comprehend. But he was also polite to every customer, patient when the coffee ran out, and he left tips that made Sophia's co-workers fight over who got to serve him. He's watching you again, whispered Carmen, the other morning waitress, as she passed Sophia with a tray of pancakes. Sophia glanced over to find Damien's attention focused on her instead of his laptop. When their eyes met, he didn't look away, and the intensity of his stare made her heart skip. Order up, Tony called, sliding plates across the pass-through window. Sophia delivered breakfast to a table of construction workers, then returned to refill Damien's coffee cup. He closed his laptop and gave her his full attention. Busy morning, he observed. Always is. People need their caffeine fix before facing the day. Sophia topped off his cup, very aware of how close she had to stand to reach him. Don't you have an office to go to? I do, but the coffee there isn't nearly as good. Is that why you keep coming back? The coffee? Damien's smile was slow and devastating. Among other things. Heat crept up Sophia's neck. She was saved from responding when her phone buzzed with a text. Diego's name flashed on the screen, and her smile faltered as she read his message. Everything all right? Damien asked, noticing her expression. My brother's having trouble with his student loan paperwork. Again. Sophia sighed, tucking the phone back into her apron. The financial aid office is a nightmare to navigate. What kind of trouble? They're saying his scholarship doesn't cover all his fees, but the documentation is confusing. Diego's brilliant with medicine but terrible with bureaucracy. Sophia refilled the sugar dispensers as she talked. I've been trying to help him figure it out, but honestly, I don't understand half of what they're asking for. I could take a look, Damien offered casually. I deal with complex financial documents all the time. Sophia paused, studying his face. Why would you do that? Because you care about your brother, and you've been stressed about it all week. You noticed I was stressed? I notice everything about you, Sophia. The simple statement, delivered in his deep voice, made her pulse race. She looked away, focusing on wiping down the already clean counter. I couldn't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Damien pulled out his business card and wrote something on the back. Have Diego call my office. My assistant will connect him with our legal team. They handle university contracts all the time. Damien, that's too much. It's a phone call, Sophia. Let me help. Chapter 4. Sophia sees past Damien's arrogant exterior. The following Tuesday, Sophia was restocking the pie case when she overheard Damien on the phone. His usual confident tone was replaced by something colder, sharper. I don't care what the community board says, Richard. We have the permits, we have the funding, and we have a timeline to meet. He paused, listening. They're just delaying the inevitable. People always resist change until they see the benefits. Sophia frowned, something about the conversation nagging at her, but the breakfast rush picked up, and she got distracted serving customers. Later, during a brief lull, she noticed Damien had barely touched his food. He sat staring out the window with an expression she'd never seen before. Tired, almost vulnerable. "Everything okay?" she asked, refilling his coffee cup. Damien looked up, seeming to shake off whatever had been bothering him. "Just work complications." "Want to talk about it? I'm a good listener." For a moment, he looked like he might actually open up. Then his phone rang again, and the moment passed. "I should take this," he said, answering with his usual business voice. "Blackwood." As he talked, Sophia found herself studying his profile. She was beginning to recognize his different expressions, the slight tightening around his eyes when he was frustrated, the way his jaw clenched when someone challenged him, the rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "Problems?" she asked when he hung up. "You could say that." Damien ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect style. "Sometimes I wonder if what I do actually helps anyone." The admission surprised her. "What do you mean?" "My company specializes in urban development. We buy up old neighborhoods and modernize them. New housing, better infrastructure, economic growth." He gestured toward the window. "But people see us as the enemy. They think we're destroying communities instead of improving them." "Are you?" Sophia asked quietly. Damien's eyes snapped to hers. "Are we what? Destroying communities?" The question hung between them. Finally, Damien said, "We're bringing progress. Better housing, higher property values, more jobs." "For who?" "For everyone." "But what about the people who can't afford the better housing? The families who've lived in those neighborhoods for generations?" Damien was quiet for a long moment. "There are always growing pains with development." "Growing pains," Sophia repeated. "Is that what you call it when families get priced out of the only homes they've ever known?" "Sophia, my family was displaced when I was 12, she continued. "Developers bought our apartment building and turned it into luxury condos. We ended up in a worse neighborhood because it was all we could afford. My parents lost their community, their support system, everything familiar." Damien's expression had gone carefully blank. "I'm sorry that happened to you." "Are you? Or are you sorry I told you about it?" For the first time since she'd known him, Damien Blackwood looked uncertain. "Both, maybe." Despite herself, Sophia found his honesty disarming. "At least you're being honest." "I try to be. With you." The way he said it with quiet intensity made her heart skip. "Why me?" "Because you're the first person in years who's seen me as more than just my bank account." Chapter 5. Their first real date, outside the diner. "I have a proposition for you," Damien said the next morning, appearing at the counter with his usual coffee order. Sophia looked up from calculating her tips, immediately suspicious. "What kind of proposition?" "Have dinner with me, somewhere that isn't here." "Like a date?" "Exactly like a date." Sophia's pulse quickened, but she kept her voice steady. "Why?" "Because I'd like to get to know you outside of this diner. Because I want to see if you're as fascinating over dinner as you are over coffee." Damien leaned closer, his voice dropping. "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 3 weeks." Heat flooded Sophia's cheeks. "Damien." "One dinner, Sophia. If you hate it, I'll never ask again." She studied his face, looking for signs of the arrogant billionaire who'd first walked into her diner. Instead, she saw something that looked almost like nervousness. "Where?" she asked. "Anywhere you want. Your choice completely." "Okay," she said impulsively. "But not somewhere fancy. Somewhere real." That evening, Sophia met Damien at Mercado San Miguel, a vibrant market in the Mission District where food vendors served everything from Korean tacos to Salvadoran pupusas. She'd chosen it deliberately, If he was going to date her, he needed to see her world, not just expect her to fit into his. Damien was waiting by the entrance, looking completely out of place in his designer jeans and leather jacket among the families and young couples hunting for authentic street food. "This is your idea of dinner?" he asked, taking in the controlled chaos of the market. "This is the best food in the city," Sophia replied, suddenly second-guessing herself. "But if you'd prefer somewhere with tablecloths and sommeliers—" "No," Damien said quickly. "This is perfect. I trust you." They wandered through the market, Sophia pointing out her favorite vendors and insisting Damien try everything from handmade tortillas to elote topped with chili powder and lime. She watched his face as he tasted each dish, charmed by his genuine reactions. "This is incredible," he said around a bite of carnitas taco. "How did you find this place?" "My family's been coming here since I was little. My abuela used to say you could taste the love in food made by people's hands, not machines." "Your grandmother sounds wise." She was. She taught me that food isn't just nutrition, it's culture, memory, connection. Sophia licked lime juice from her fingers, not noticing how Damien's eyes tracked the movement. "What about your family? Any wisdom passed down through generations?" Damien's expression shuddered slightly. "My grandfather taught me that business is war. Win at all costs or someone else will win at yours." "That sounds lonely." "It can be." They found a picnic table outside, sharing plates and talking as the sun set over the city. Sophia found herself relaxing, enjoying Damien's dry humor and surprising knowledge about everything from architecture to music. "You're not what I expected," she said as they shared flan for dessert. "What did you expect?" "Someone more entitled, more demanding." Damien's smile was rueful. "I can be both of those things, but not always. Not with you." Chapter 6. Intimate Moments and Growing Connection. After dinner, they walked through Dolores Park as the city lights began to twinkle below them. The fog was rolling in from the bay, creating a soft, dreamlike atmosphere that made the evening feel suspended in time. "Thank you," Damien said as they found a bench overlooking the skyline. "For what?" "For showing me your world. For letting me see the city through your eyes." Sophia studied his profile in the lamplight. "You make it sound like some grand gesture. It's just dinner." "Is it?" Damien turned to face her, his expression serious. "Because it feels like more than that to me." The intensity in his voice made her breath catch. "Damien, I know this is complicated. I know we come from different worlds, but I can't pretend I don't feel something when I'm with you." "What do you feel?" "Alive," he said simply. "Like I'm seeing everything clearly for the first time in years." Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. She knew she should be careful, should protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak of falling for a man whose life was so different from hers. But when Damien looked at her like she was the most important thing in his world, logic seemed less important than the connection sparking between them. "This is crazy," she whispered. "The best things usually are." When he reached out to touch her face, Sophia didn't pull away. His fingers were gentle as they traced her cheekbone, and she found herself leaning into the touch. "Sophia." He said her name like a prayer. "Yes?" "I'm going to kiss you now. Unless you tell me not to." Instead of answering, she closed the distance between them. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if they were both afraid of breaking something precious. But when Sophia sighed against his lips, Damien deepened the contact, his hand sliding into her hair. She tasted like lime and cinnamon, like laughter and sunshine, and Damien felt something in his chest crack open. He'd kissed women before, beautiful, sophisticated women who moved in his social circles, but nothing had prepared him for the way Sophia made him feel, like he was falling and flying at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sophia rested her forehead against his. "This is going to complicate everything," she said. "I don't care." "You should. I'm not the kind of woman who fits into your world, Damien. I work double shifts to pay for school. I buy my clothes at Target. I've never been to a charity gala or a board meeting or wherever it is billionaires spend their time. None of that matters. Doesn't it? Sophia pulled back to look at him. What happens when you get tired of slumming it? When the novelty wears off? What happens when you realize I'm not the arrogant bastard you thought I was? Damien countered. When you see that I'm just a man who's falling for an extraordinary woman? Sophia searched his face, looking for lies or manipulation. Instead, she found sincerity that took her breath away. One day at a time, she suggested. One day at a time, he agreed, pulling her close again. Chapter 7. Sophia discovers Damien's company plans. 3 weeks later, Sophia was rushing to her community organizing meeting when she collided with someone outside the neighborhood center. Papers scattered everywhere, and she dropped to her knees to help gather them. Sorry, she muttered, grabbing sheets covered with architectural drawings and legal documents. I wasn't watching where I was. She stopped mid-sentence as her eyes focused on the letterhead. Blackwood Enterprises, Mission District Redevelopment Project. Oh no, breathed Mrs. Garcia, the elderly woman Sophia had crashed into. Those are confidential. I wasn't supposed to bring them out of the meeting. Sophia's hands shook as she scanned the documents. Detailed plans for demolishing 2 full blocks of the Mission District, including Tony's Diner. Artist renderings of sleek condominiums and upscale retail spaces. Financial projections showing massive profits from displacing hundreds of working families. All of it bearing Damien Blackwood's signature. Sophia, mija, are you all right? Mrs. Garcia asked with concern. You look like you've seen a ghost. I need to. Sophia stood slowly, the papers clutched in her hand. Mrs. Garcia, where did you get these? My nephew works for the city planning office. He thought the community should know what's coming. The older woman's face was grim. They're trying to push it through without proper hearings. No community input, no consideration for the families who live here. Sophia's vision blurred as the betrayal hit her. For weeks, she'd been falling for Damien while he'd been planning to destroy everything she cared about. The diner where she worked, the neighborhood where her friends lived, the community that had welcomed her family years ago. All of it was just real estate to him. The meeting, she said numbly. I should go to the meeting. Inside, 40 neighbors packed the small room, their faces tight with worry and anger. Sophia recognized most of them. Customers from the diner, parents from the local school, shopkeepers whose businesses would be destroyed. They want to start demolition in 6 months, announced Carlos Rivera, who ran the corner grocery store. 6 months to find new homes, new jobs, new schools for our kids. Where are we supposed to go? Demanded Maria Santos, the single mother who brought her children to the diner for special occasions. Everything here costs twice what I can afford. They don't care where we go, said Mr. Peterson, his voice bitter. Rich people want our neighborhood now, so we're inconvenient. Sophia felt sick. She thought about Damien's casual dismissal of growing pains in development, his assumption that progress was always worth the cost. We need to organize, she heard herself saying. Fight this in court, at city council meetings, in the media. Make them hear our voices. Easy to say, Carlos replied. But they have lawyers and money. What do we have? Each other, Sophia said fiercely. And the truth. This is our home, our community. That has to count for something. As the meeting continued around her, Sophia stared at the architectural drawings. In elegant lines and precise measurements, they laid out the destruction of everything she loved, including, she realized with growing horror, her relationship with the man she'd begun to trust with her heart. Chapter 8. Confrontation and Heartbreak. Sophia waited until the next morning to confront Damien. She arrived at the diner early, the Blackwood Enterprises documents hidden in her apron, and went through the motions of setting up for the breakfast shift. Her hands shook as she filled the coffee machine and restocked the sugar dispensers. At exactly 8:15 a.m., Damien walked through the door with his usual confident stride. He smiled when he saw her, the same warm expression that had made her fall for him over the past month. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, settling onto his usual stool. Sophia poured his coffee without speaking, her movements mechanical. "Everything okay?" Damien asked, noticing her silence. "You seem upset." "Do I?" Sophia pulled the documents from her apron and spread them across the counter. "Maybe because I found out the man I've been dating is planning to destroy my entire life." Damien's face went pale as he recognized the papers. "Sophia, I can explain." "Can you? Because these look pretty self-explanatory. Blackwood Enterprises plans to demolish 2 blocks of the Mission District, including this diner, and replace everything with luxury condos." Her voice was steady, but tears threatened at the corners of her eyes. "When were you planning to tell me?" "I wanted to find the right time." "The right time?" Sophia's voice rose, causing several customers to look over. "When, Damien? After you bulldozed my workplace? After you displaced all my neighbors?" "It's not that simple." "It's exactly that simple." Sophia slammed her hand on the counter. "You sat here for weeks, learning about my life, my community, the people I care about, and the whole time, you were planning to destroy it all." Damien stood, reaching for her. "Sophia, please let me explain the full situation. Don't touch me." She stepped back, wrapping her arms around herself protectively. "I trusted you. I actually started to believe you were different from what I first thought. I am different. My feelings for you are real. Are they? Or was this all part of some sick game? Get the local waitress to fall for you so she wouldn't cause problems with your development plans." "You know that's not true," Damien said desperately. "What we have is real, Sophia. More real than anything I've ever felt." "Then prove it." Sophia met his eyes, hers blazing with pain and challenge. "Cancel the project. Find somewhere else to build your empire." "I can't do that. Too much is invested. Too many people are depending on the jobs this will create." "What about the people depending on the jobs this will destroy? What about Tony, who built this place from nothing? What about Mrs. Garcia, who's lived in the same apartment for 30 years? We'll provide relocation assistance, job placement. You'll throw money at the problem and call it solved." Sophia laughed bitterly. "Just like you tried to do that first night you walked in here." "Sophia, please." "No." She untied her apron with trembling fingers. "I won't be bought, Damien. Not by flowers, not by fancy dinners, and not by false promises of love." "Where are you going?" "To fight you," Sophia said simply. "To save my community from your progress." Chapter 9. Damien chooses love over profit. For 2 weeks, Damien tried to convince himself that walking away from Sophia was for the best. Their worlds were too different, their values incompatible. The Mission District project would proceed as planned, Sophia would find another job, and eventually they'd both move on. But every morning at 8:15 a.m. he found himself sitting in his empty penthouse instead of at Tony's diner, drinking expensive coffee that tasted like nothing. His assistant Jennifer had stopped asking why he'd canceled 3 board meetings and pushed back the project timeline. His investors were getting restless, demanding explanations for the delays. But every time Damien tried to sign the final demolition orders, he heard Sophia's voice asking if he was destroying communities. The answer, he was beginning to realize, was yes. On a Thursday morning, Damien drove past the diner on his way to the office. Through the window, he could see Tony working the grill, Carmen serving coffee to the morning regulars, everything continuing as normal. But Sophia wasn't there. He parked and walked inside, telling himself he just wanted coffee. Well, Tony said, looking up from the griddle. "Look what the cat dragged in." "Is Sophia working today?" Damien asked, sliding onto his old stool. "Sophia doesn't work here anymore." Tony's voice was cold. "She quit after some billionaire broke her heart." Damien's chest tightened. "Where is she?" "Why, so you can hurt her again?" "So I can apologize. So I can try to make things right." Tony studied his face for a long moment. "She's at the community center, organizing the resistance to your development project. Ironic, isn't it? 20 minutes later, Damien stood outside the Mission Neighborhood Center, watching through the windows as Sophia addressed a room full of residents. She was animated, passionate, her hands moving as she spoke about tenant rights and community organizing. She looked tired but determined and more beautiful than he remembered. When she noticed him through the glass, her expression hardened. She said something to the crowd, then stepped outside to face him. "What do you want, Damien?" "To talk. To explain." "There's nothing to explain. You made your choice." Sophia crossed her arms. "Your lawyers filed the final demolition permits yesterday. Congratulations. You won." "I haven't won anything," Damien said quietly. "I've lost the only thing that mattered." "Don't." Sophia's voice was sharp. "Don't you dare try to make this about us. This is about 40 families losing their homes so you can make more money." "You're right," Damien said, surprising her. "This is about them. And about me realizing that some things are more important than profit margins." He pulled out his phone and made a call. "Richard, it's Damien. Cancel the Mission District project, all of it." Sophia's eyes widened as she listened to his side of the conversation. "I don't care about the losses. Sell the land back to the city at cost. Set up a community development fund with the difference." Damien looked directly at Sophia. "Because some neighborhoods don't need fixing, they need protecting." When he hung up, Sophia was staring at him in shock. "You just canceled a $100 million project," she said. "I canceled a mistake." "Why?" "Because you were right. Because I'd rather be a man you could love than a billionaire you can't respect." Chapter 10. Sophia and Damien fight together for the community. 6 months later, Sophia stood behind the counter at Tony's diner, but everything else had changed. The diner was packed not just with regular customers, but with reporters, city council members, and community activists celebrating the grand opening of the Mission District Community Center, funded entirely by the Blackwood Foundation. "Order up," Tony called, sliding plates across the pass. At 70, he was moving slower but grinning wider than Sophia had ever seen him. "This is surreal," Carmen said, carrying a tray of coffee to a table where the mayor was discussing affordable housing initiatives with Mrs. Garcia. "6 months ago, we thought we'd all be homeless by now." Sophia smiled, watching through the window as children played in the new playground that had been built where luxury condos were supposed to stand. The community had not only been saved, it had been strengthened. "You did good, mija," Tony said, joining her at the window. "Standing up to that billionaire took guts." "I had help," Sophia replied, her eyes finding Damien across the room. He was deep in conversation with Carlos Rivera about the microcredit program they'd developed to help local business owners expand. Damien had traded his expensive suits for jeans and sweaters, and he looked more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. After the diner closed that evening, Sophia and Damien walked to their favorite spot in Dolores Park. The city sparkled below them, but Sophia's attention was focused on the man beside her. "How do you feel about today?" she asked. "Like I finally did something that mattered," Damien replied. "The board thinks I've lost my mind, but I've never been more certain of anything." "Even giving up your fortune to build community centers instead of condos?" "Especially that." Damien stopped walking and turned to face her. "Sophia, I have something to ask you. If it's about the child care center proposal, I already told you. Marry me." Sophia's words died in her throat. Damien was pulling a ring box from his pocket, but it wasn't the massive diamond she might have expected. Instead, it was a simple band with a small, perfect stone. "I know I don't deserve you," he continued. "I know I almost destroyed everything you cared about. But these past 6 months, working together, building something meaningful, it's shown me what my life could be, what I want it to be. Damien, I love you, Sophia Martinez. I love your passion, your fierce loyalty, your ability to see the best in people, even when they don't see it themselves. I love that you made me want to be a better man." Tears spilled down Sophia's cheeks. You didn't need to become a better man. You just needed to become yourself. Is that a yes? That's a yes to everything. To marriage, to building a life together, to whatever comes next. When Damien slipped the ring onto her finger, Sophia felt something click into place. They'd started as adversaries, become lovers, and now they were partners in every sense of the word. I love you too, she whispered against his lips, just as you are. Below them, the Mission District glowed with the warm lights of home, community, and the kind of love that changed everything. Epilogue. 2 years later, Sophia stood in the kitchen of the expanded Tony's Diner, putting finishing touches on a 3-tier wedding cake. Through the pass-through window, she could see the dining room transformed with white linens and flowers for Carmen and James's reception. The cake looks perfect, Chef Sophia, said Maria, one of the nursing students who now worked at the diner part-time. The scholarship program Damien had established meant young people from the neighborhood could pursue their dreams without crushing debt. Thank you, Maria. Can you help me carry it out? The dining room erupted in cheers as they brought out the cake. Carmen, radiant in a simple white dress, beamed as James spun her around on the makeshift dance floor. The whole community had turned out to celebrate, proof that Tony's Diner remained the heart of the neighborhood. Beautiful work, Damien said, wrapping his arms around Sophia from behind. Though I'm partial to the cake you made for our wedding. That cake was a disaster and you know it. Sophia laughed, leaning into his warmth. I was too nervous to bake properly. It was perfect because you made it. Sophia turned in his arms, still amazed by how natural this felt. Damien looked different from the arrogant billionaire who'd first walked into her diner. His hair was longer, his smile came easier, and his eyes held a contentment that money had never given him. How was the site visit today? She asked. Amazing. The Portland Community Center will break ground next month. Damien's new company, focused on community-driven development, was expanding to other cities. And the Seattle project got approved for the affordable housing component. You're changing the world, one neighborhood at a time. We're changing the world, Damien corrected. This was your vision, Sophia. I just learned to see it through your eyes. Diego appeared beside them, looking professional in his scrubs. He was finishing his residency at UCSF, his medical school debt completely forgiven through the Foundation's scholarship program. Congratulations, you two, he said, hugging his sister. Another successful community celebration. How's the hospital? Damien asked. Busy, good busy. We're implementing that art therapy program Sophia suggested for pediatric patients. Diego grinned. Turns out nurses and business moguls make a pretty good team. As the evening wound down and the last guests filtered out, Sophia and Damien sat in the empty diner, sharing leftover cake and planning their next project. Any regrets? Sophia asked, watching Damien calculate community center budgets on his laptop. Only one, he said, looking up at her. That I wasted so many years building the wrong kind of empire. It wasn't wasted. It all led you here. Led you to me. To us, Damien corrected, pulling her close. To everything that really matters. Outside, the Mission District hummed with life. Families in secure homes, businesses thriving, children playing safely in community spaces built with love instead of profit margins. Sometimes the best love stories aren't about changing for someone else. They're about becoming who you were always meant to be, with the right person beside you. The end.
Thank you for staying till the end. If you enjoy the video, please hit the like button, share, and comment. We'll love to hear from you.